We open our scripture to the 17th chapter of Luke. We're looking at verses 5 through 10. And the disciples are asking Jesus to increase their faith. And in a way, this leads into our title of, they say, increase our faith. So I began to think about, Biggie Size is what they ask us when we go to the fast food. They wonder if we want a medium or a large fry. Do we want to Biggie Size that order? And so we're going to watch the disciples in this conversation about enlarging their faith. The apostles said to the Lord, increase our faith. The Lord replied, if you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you could say to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it would obey you. Who among you would say to your slave who has just come in from plowing or tending sheep in the field, come here at once and take your place at the table? Would you not rather say to him, prepare supper for me? Put on your apron and serve me while I eat and drink. Later you may eat and drink. Do you thank the slave for doing what was commanded? So you also, when you have done all that you are ordered to do, say, we are unworthy slaves. We have done only what we ought to have done. The Lord replied, if you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you could say to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it would obey you. Earlier this week, I heard the expression, the mustard is on the lettuce. That is what the announcer said at Monday's JV football game. A yellow penalty flag had fallen on the lush green grass of the football field. The mustard is on the lettuce. The yellow flag is on the green grass. How poetic. A little mustard goes a long way. 15 yards, in fact. That mustard flag cost somebody 15 yards. A little mustard goes a long way. I take this as a sign that God really wanted us to talk about mustard this week. I have seen mustard go a long way. Back in the 1960s, we were traveling across Missouri to get to the grandparents. We stopped in a nice downtown cafe. We pretty much ordered hamburgers all around. When our burgers arrived, it was time to put the ketchup and mustard on our burgers, each according to our own likes. I picked up the mustard bottle first. I tried to squeeze some mustard onto my burger. Nothing would come out. I said, the mustard is stuck. Now let me say something about my father. My dad was a chemist. He always had strong hands. He was always twisting lids off of chemical bottles. He was always twisting them back on tight. He did not want hydrochloric acid getting out of the bottle. He did not want nitro mixing with glycerin. Dad had strong hands. So Dad, who is the expert at stuck things, took up the mustard bottle with both hands. He had his fingers laced together over the top of the bottle. He went to smash his hands together and kaboom! The business end of the mustard bottle exploded, with wet mustard flying all over the place. Lying on top of Dad's hamburger was a big blort of mustard with a dried yellow plug of mustard in the middle. It was gross. There was mustard all over Irene Evans. There was mustard all over Mark Evans. There was mustard all over Scott Evans. There was mustard all over Robert Evans. Dad was not spared from the backsplash of the mustard. We all sat there in stunned silence. Then Mom started smiling. Then she burst out laughing. Then Mark, Scott, and Robert started laughing. The waitress came over. Is everything all right? We started laughing harder. Oh my gosh! The waitress noticed the mustard pile on top of Dad's hamburger. Oh, I am so sorry. We couldn't say a thing. We were all laughing so hard. Dad pointed at the mustard bottle and laughed even harder. Then the waitress got tickled. She laughed. By then the manager had come over. The manager got caught up in the laughing mustard gas. Here are a bunch of Midwesterners sitting in a cafe, dying of laughter. A little mustard goes a long way. Jesus knew this. When the disciples said to Jesus, increase our faith, he knew that they just needed a little mustard seed faith. He told them a little mustard goes a long way. If you had faith like a mustard seed, you could tell this mulberry tree to jump into the sea. If you had faith like a mustard seed, you could move mountains. If you had just a little faith, you could do big things. The mustard seed is the smallest of all the crops we plant in Israel, and it makes the biggest growth above ground. A little 2 millimeters of seed can make 2,000 millimeters of green plant. A little mustard goes a long way. If we could stand to eat mustard on all our food, we could solve the world's malnutrition problem. Mustard is a very complete food. If we would eat 100 milligrams of mustard a day, we would get 50% of our protein, 25 to 90% of our vitamins A through Z, and 25 to 75% of our minerals. Just 100 milligrams of mustard would give us more nutrition than 100 milligrams of fortified breakfast cereal. The problem is a little mustard goes a long way. That 100 milligrams equals about 9 tablespoons. That is a lot of mustard to be dumping on our burgers, potatoes, coleslaw, green beans, and apple pie. We would have to dump mustard on everything. A little bit of mustard goes a long way. This is why Jesus chooses mustard for this example. Just a little seed, just a little flavor. That is all the faith we need. When the disciples said to Jesus, "Please, Biggie size our faith," he said, "No, you don't need a Biggie size faith. You just need the mustard. You just need the condiment. You just need a little mustard seed, because a little mustard goes a long way. A little faith goes a long way." To prove his point, Jesus allowed himself to be buried like a mustard seed. He backed up his own words. He allowed himself to be planted, just like a mustard plant. And 3 days later, his mustard seed sprouted, and he rose again. A little mustard goes a long way. Amen.